Okay, I'm going to call to order the Thursday, September 7th, 2017 Board of Supervisors meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Ms. Frescator, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for those serving our country, both at home and abroad. And please keep in mind all those folks down in Florida and Texas that are really up against it. Thank you. Okay, first thing on tonight's agenda is announcements. Ms. Frescator.
Good evening, residents and fellow board members. I have a couple announcements tonight. First one is for the Parks and Rec Department. We have a variety of discount tickets available, and the discount amusement park and area attraction tickets are still available for sale in the office. The price list is posted online. Also, discount premiere movie tickets to Regal, Edwards, United Artists Theaters are sold for $9.50 each. That's quite a bargain. All tickets are sold Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information and prices, check the website, www.warminstertownship.org. The Heaviest Tomato Contest is being held from August 1st to September 15th. Bring your tomato to the Park and Rec offices and Warminster Community Park during regular business hours. Heaviest tomato wins a prize. Parks and Rec Department has teamed up with Hatboro Federal Savings to host our annual fall golf scramble on Monday, October 9th at Five Ponds. Golfer fee is $125 per person or $450 for a foursome. Sponsorships are available. The annual Touch a Truck event, which is very popular, will be held on Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Warminster Community Park. It's a nice family event. You're all invited to visit the park to see the trucks, equipment, and emergency services vehicles up close. Park and Rec is hosting the annual trip to the Radio City Christmas Spectacular on Saturday, November 18th, 2017 from 7:45 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Fees are $110 for a resident or $115 for non-residents. Join us to celebrate this annual tradition. The trip includes motor coach transportation and second mezzanine ticket. 2017 dog licenses may be purchased at the Park and Rec office during business hours. For more information on any of these events, please contact the Park and Rec Department or visit the Township website at www.warminstertownship.org.
Thank you,
The
Ms.
only
Frescator.
other announcement I have, all residents are invited to be part of the 2017 Comprehensive Plan Board. Now, this meeting will determine what our township is going to look like for years to come. Please voice your opinions at the Resident Vision meeting. The topics include development, recreation, township identity, and transportation. It will be held Tuesday, September 26, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Ben Wilson Senior Center Activity Center. Thank you very much. That's it, Mr.
Thank you, Ms. Frescator.
Thank you.
I have a tomato I'll be coming by with tomorrow. I see Ms. Whitney's here. Do you have a lot of contestants so far? Do you? Since I stopped using all that pesticides and all, it's hard to grow a big tomato without using all those chemicals that cause cancer. But I think I might have one, so I'll be by tomorrow. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I only have two announcements this evening. The Ben Wilson Senior Center is having their annual spaghetti dinner Friday, September the 15th. Adults are $9 and children are $5. Again, that is the spaghetti dinner at the Ben Wilson Senior Center Friday, September the 15th. And the Senior Center is also having a flea market September the 23rd, and that is from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that is all that I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Monroe. Mr. McPhillips.
Yeah, I recommend going to the Ben Wilson Senior Center for spaghetti dinner. It's a really good event, and you might have as Township Supervisor serve you spaghetti. So definitely.
Mr. McPhillips is the head waiter.
Yes, but just real quick, Mr. Chairman, you may have saw in the news or read in the paper that Ben Salem is suing pharmaceutical companies, and I don't know if that's a fit for Warminster or not, but it definitely speaks to the magnitude of the problem that's going on here, and it all starts with people abusing prescription medications. And I can tell you that the number one thing you want to do is that lock up your medications, or if you have any expired or unused medications, drop them off at the police station. Last month, we returned close to 80 pounds of unwanted, unused prescription medications. So please tell your family, tell your friends, they can safely dispose of their unwanted, unused prescription medications over at the police department. But this is definitely a problem that's not only affecting here in Warminster, but the county, the state, the country, and it's not going away anytime soon. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McPhillips. Mr. Crowley?
I have no announcements, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have a few, starting with, we had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss union negotiations. I want to start off by, I want to thank Ann's Choice. They hosted our last meeting in August, and it was really nice thing. I'd like to do it annually if possible. We had a lot of input from the residents over there, and it was nice to take the show on the road for a change. So I want to thank Chris Donati and his staff for putting it on, and Amanda and Larry. I know it was a lot of work for you two to move us over there for the meeting, so thank you. I also wanted to announce that this coming Saturday is the Oktoberfest at the VE Club on Davisville Road. It's a great time, and it's a big fundraiser for the club, too. They have acres and acres of open space over there that cost them a tremendous amount of money to maintain, and we'd love to keep that open space here. So anyone, and it's a really good time. It's a really good festival. So anyone who wants to come out, that starts at 1 o'clock. And this coming Monday night at 7 p.m. is the annual September 11th memorial at the Hartsville Fire Company. And anyone that can make that one really should. It's a truly moving experience to be there for it. They read all the names of the first responders who gave their lives in service that day. It takes an hour and a half, but it's a fast hour and a half, and it's really moving. They do a terrific job with it. So anyone that's available, please do come out for it, and volunteer to read some names too. They ask everyone to read 5 names. It's in the audience, and it's really a moving experience. So I'd like to ask everyone to come out for that can. That's at 7 p.m. at the Hartsville Fire Company. Okay, I'm going to move along now to presentations. I have, the VFW has a plaque presentation for Warminster Township and Police Emergency Services. So I'm going to ask the representative from the VFW to come up, and Chief Donnelly to come up as well to accept these.
Appreciate that. In case anybody don't know, I'm Ron Bridgman. I'm the quartermaster for 64. Huh? Huh.
Get your front center, right?
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I'm with the VFW over there at the 6493. I'm the quartermaster, and for the past 2 years, I was the parade coordinator. And parade didn't go off too good my first year. Second year, I put the buses in to cover the rain and stuff. So I have 2 plaques I would like to present. One to the township for their support in the parade and supporting us as veterans, and one to the chief. Oops. Because without you guys, the parade would not have been safe. And being a retired police officer, I do have a soft heart for the blue line. So I have a plaque for both of you.
That's the one for the township, Ron, if you want to do that first.
Yeah, I give that to you, and I appreciate it. Our post is there for the community, and that's part of our, like the VFW, let's say, the VFW does more for vets, and there's more vets in Warminster.
And we thank you, Ron, and we will display this proudly in the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Same thing with the chief, is that you guys, you have your guys make the parade safe, and I appreciate it. And thanks a lot, Chief.
All right, thank you.
And
we appreciate it.
pass on to me personally. Stay safe. And if I could just say one more thing, I'm working on 3 programs right now, and one is with yours. I'm working on presenting a certificate to Officer of the Year, Fireman of the Year, and Medic of the Year for the township.
Can we do Township Supervisor of the Year?
They don't have to post it. Now, that also will go, whoever that person is, and each department will make their own nominations and send them to me, and we'll forward that on to the national in Missouri, and to get recognition. If they're picked with the national, they will actually go to the convention and get their awards.
Awesome.
And they'll be nationally recognized for their services, which I think is something that should have been done.
Thank you. Excellent.
Again, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping this year's parade.
And thank you, Ron, and thank you that all that the VFW folks do for the township and for the vets. Thank you. And I know the first parade was a washout that you ran, but this year you made up for it. It was terrific.
taking it on. So that's why, if you notice, I put buses and last year, big rain, we had some of those buses.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you again.
If you know of a vet that needs help, give us a call.
Excellent, thank you.
Let me get back into the thing.
We had a whole discussion about bingo and the buses and the parades. Where you guys?
That's terrific.
I want to thank Ron. Ron's heading back over for bingo, so thank you. Item B, we've removed from tonight's agenda. Darren Meehan was going to come in and talk about Brad Fox Run. He's actually coordinating a few things with the township that we're going to get a little better message on, so he'll be back in October to start to give that a push. So I have item C. I don't know if anyone's here from the Municipal Authority tonight. Item C on tonight's agenda was Tim Hagee from the Municipal Authority for an update, but
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hagee requests to be on the agenda this evening. He's not here, but I can reach out to him and invite him to our next meeting.
okay. So moving right along. I'm going to move on to public comment. Township residents have the opportunity at this time to comment on any non-agenda items, subject to the 5-minute guideline as recognized by the chair. Is there any public comment? Whoever wants to come up first, please do.
Go first, Jay. Go first.
Okay, please, come on up. Tell us who you are.
I'm Joe Meditz from 997 Roberts Road. I've attended many meetings here over the development of the Longstreth housing project over there. We brought up several times at the meetings about the flooding on Roberts Road in Marion. Lo and behold, I got a movie of it. I'd just like to present it to the board if possible. I got some DVDs for them to review, so they maybe take some extra consideration. People at the time didn't kind of believe that this flooding was that bad. I can show people in water up to here, cars underwater, everything. And I totally forgot about that I had this thing, but I'd like to leave some DVDs. I guess it's not
Please do.
possible to
We'd like
show one now.
We'd be
but-
glad to have the engineer review them. Please do.
Okay. The other thing I have possibly for the engineer is, over there now, there's a 35-foot buffer on the plan for this development, which is fine. However, is this a 35-foot ditch that they're digging and throwing over there? It's not what we had in mind, you know. There's a ditch over there now about 6 or 8 foot wide. It runs the whole length of the development.
Yeah, well, part of it's for stormwater management, the drainage swale. There'll be plantings throughout that whole area. I mean, they're not done yet. I can go look at it, look exactly where you're at, and talk to you about it.
Is that a new collection?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The reason I'm hesitating, I'm not sure if it's temporary or not, because I'd have to look at the erosion control plan, which is under jurisdiction of the county. But I can look into that, get your information and follow up with you. But that will all be planted. The whole buffer yard will be planted. But there is, for stormwater, I mean, to your point earlier about stormwater and runoff and stuff, that may be permanent. I don't have the design plans in front of me, but I can look into that for you.
Yeah, because I know there was one on the plans. There's a basin on the right front corner, and then there was one all the
but
way on the left back.
you're talking about the long run along all the backyards.
Along, yeah, the backyards
yeah, I
of the
know.
houses, yeah, it would be along Roberts Road. It's a ditch that must be 6 or 8 foot deep, and it's quite wide, and it runs the whole length of the project there.
If you give the township your information, I'll make sure I'll follow up with you and explain everything and
Sure, no problem.
determine whether it's permanent. But there will be landscaping. All the developments that were approved under the buffer yard, the buffer development will have plantings on the backyards of the new lots and in that area.
Okay.
It may not be right up against the property line, so I'll have to look at that on that project.
Okay, sounds good.
And please leave the DVD with Amanda.
Okay.
Please do. And Craig, I'm sure you'd be glad to review that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Please, sir.
How you doing? My name is Frank Byron. I'm speaking on behalf of Mary Ann and Paul Bova. They live at 231 Colonial Drive. There is a severe water problem. It's a drainage issue in their backyard that is going from the property line to their foundation. The patio is completely underwater. He has a packet of pictures. I was a landscape contractor for 37 years, and I went back. I'm personal friends of theirs. He asked me to take a look at it. There was a network of piping that was put in when the homes were originally built that the township had to authorize. Now, in looking at the storm drain and the piping, one pipe is actually dislodged from the drain, and it's draining right onto his property, coming down towards his foundation. And it's a constant runoff, from the homes behind. So what our question is, if we would like the township engineer to address this and just to take a look at it, to evaluate it, I had Paul get a couple of estimates from private contractors to come in to regrade, dig the drain up, try to, put it back in line so the pipe actually goes into the storm drain. So that's his issue, because he has to stop this water runoff, because in the fall, in the winter, it's going to freeze, expand, and crack his foundation. It's a quagmire. His whole backyard is a quagmire. So we were just asking for your consideration to evaluate it, and so that we can come to a common understanding, for him and both of his neighbors on either side.
I'm going to give this to Mr. Schuster, because I know we've been out there.
I think he wants to say something.
I think you all know.
Please take the microphone, please.
I think you all know about it already, because I was told that the township supervisor refused to do anything about it.
That's news to me.
Now, the property owners who own that property up there now, 289 Centennial, the township was up there. He told down the township, if you want to go down there and take care of it, take care of it. I was told that Eric was ready to do it, and the township supervisor says, no, you're not going to do it.
Township supervisor or township manager?
Township manager was ready to do it.
Yeah.
And his supervisor says, no, you're not going to do it.
He has more than one supervisor.
I'm just telling you what you said. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that
Yeah,
that
I'm
didn't
not
come
sure
from
about
anyone on
that.
this board.
Well, I don't know, but
That's not accurate.
just so you know. Mind if I come up?
Sure, please.
We had a deer on the property also. They get stuck in. There's 30 pictures here.
You mind if we hang on to this?
Go to the camera. You'd be surprised if you see. If you're gonna go back up in there, you need waiters.
Thank you. Thank you. If you're finished with your comments, I'm going to ask Mr. Schuster to comment on where we are with this. 'Cause
Sure.
I know that you have looked into this.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And just to clarify, the Public Works Director, Mr. Hines, made me aware of this situation. I did go out there and visit and look at it myself as well. None of the supervisors were ever involved in that, so the decision came from me, the township manager. What we found through the investigation, we don't deny that there's a problem. You can clearly see it, there are flooding issues, and the photographs are there, clear evidence of that. We don't contest that at all. Our issue is that our understanding is there's no township facility there. There's no township stormwater system in there. There are none of our pipes. It's all private. So if it's a private issue, if it's all owned by private entities or homeowners, we don't have an involvement in that.
Well, just so you know, I did get a lawyer. I have a lawyer. He's going to go against everybody and anybody I can find.
Well, then
Yeah.
I would ask you to contact Mr. Savona, who's the township solicitor.
Well, if you're going to have your lawyer get involved, we
Well,
typically
no,
don't
he
discuss.
told me to do certain things.
Well, that's
okay?
fine.
This is
But
one of
but
them.
we're not going to comment any further.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, but I'm letting you know, something happens to my foundation and it cracks, there's going to be bigger issues than just water.
Thank you, Mr. Bowe.
Thank you. Yes, please. Please come up, please take the microphone, please.
The issue here is that the piping was probably put in by the building contractor, but the township had to authorize the network of piping.
You're assuming that.
No, well, whenever a builder does, I did contract work for 37 years. I worked with the building supervisors. I know that the township has to authorize the network of piping throughout a development, making sure that the water perks correctly.
But sir, listen, whether the township did or didn't authorize it, I'm not willing to make that assumption. I have seen in many instances, people come in and do their own drainage work after a development is built that doesn't necessarily match what was on an approved plan. And even if the township approves it, it doesn't mean the township owns it.
Okay.
The ownership of the pipe controls who's responsible for the outflow of the pipe.
Okay, this is a extremely extensive network of piping.
Sure.
So it's not something that a homeowner can take a wheelbarrow and a shovel and go do this. It's very, very elaborate. So that was our contention. We're just asking that the township engineer takes a look at it, evaluates it. We have the formal estimates, so we can, and I, evaluated it, and the contractor came up with the exact same solutions that I did. So we're just asking for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A number of items on the consent agenda for this evening. Item A is approval of your minutes from your August 17th board meeting. Item B is authorization to advertise the 2017 to 2019 snow removal bid. We're going out for multiple years at this time to try and elicit more bids. Item C is adopting resolution 2017-30, opposing Pennsylvania House Bill 1620. If you remember at the last meeting, Mr. Savona spoke about this issue. The board was unanimous in wishing to express your opposition to this bill, which would allow mostly unfettered access to the right-of-ways and other areas by various wireless entities. Item D is a resolution authorizing document disposal, the third one of this year, mostly documents, old documents over in finance. Item E is the readoption of Ordinance 739. If you recall, you adopted an ordinance approving an existing intergovernmental agreement regarding municipal recycling. Unfortunately, we discovered that was not advertised properly. It's been re-advertised, so we're asking you to go ahead and readopt it so we have no legal issues down the road. Item F is approval of a payment of $100,000 to the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority. This would be the down payment of 10% of the purchase price for Shenandoah Woods. They will take these funds and convey it over to the Navy with our offer. Item G is payment number 3 for the 2017 curb ramp installation contract to Reamstown Excavating in the amount of $64,081 as recommended by the engineer. Item H is the escrow release, the final one for Wawa on Street Road in the amount of $180,967 as recommended by the engineer.
Enthusiastic.
Item I is 350 Newtown Court. That would be release number 3 from the escrow account in the amount of $30,233 as recommended by the engineer. Item J is the Hart School redevelopment, release number 9 from the escrow account in the amount of $143,624 as recommended by the engineer. Item K is awarding the bid for rock salt to Morton Salt Incorporated in the amount of $48.82 per ton delivered and $48 per ton undelivered. This was conducted through the Bucks County Consortium. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, I'm quite sure I'm going to get a 5-0 on item H, that's for sure. Was there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. McPhillips, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Frescatore, is there any discussion on the consent agenda from the board? Any from the,
Mr. Chairman, I hesitated because I thought there was some, I'm sorry, my apologies.
We're good?
We're good, thank you.
okay. Any comment from the public on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 5, Treasurer's Report. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be brief. It's just one bill list ending September 7th, 2017 in the amount of $1,389,168.21. I do make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Frescatore, any discussion from the board?
No.
Any from the public? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mr. Schuster, there's no August financial report yet, correct?
That is correct. They're still closing the books on the month of August. As soon as that's prepared, it'll be distributed to you.
Okay, and then we'll be back to a normal report in October?
Yes.
Okay. All right, up to number 7, new business. Ward Library HVAC bid contract to Hirschberg Mechanical in the amount of $118,821. Mr. Schuster, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a long-awaited project for the library to replace the aging HVAC system. Obviously, this will increase the comfort level there, and just as importantly, decrease our energy costs. It's a very old and inefficient system. If you recall, we did get a grant for this. It's a 50/50 grant, so we have to responsible for 50% of the cost. The grant picks up the other 50%. We received 3 bids. This was the lowest responsible bidder. No bids were disqualified, and we recommend awarding this bid with alternates 4 and 5 listed on there for the amount that's listed on the agenda.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Monroe, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Crowley? Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. Item B, award Monroe contract court resurfacing, RFP. And it's an estimate of $9,000. Mr. Schuster, you want to cover that one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was for tennis and basketball courts. We only received 1 bid. The bid that we received is about $9,000 over our original estimate. My understanding, though, was that I think we have a little more work to do than we originally anticipated on one of the courts, which is a reason for the increased costs. After review, we're recommending awarding the bid.
Okay, is there a motion? Mr. McPhillips, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Monroe, any discussion?
How many other tennis courts do we have in the township? I know there's one over by Log College, right?
I'm going to have to turn right to Kathy or Karen on that one.
I know it's probably an annual budgetary issue. Is it more cost effective to do that one as well if they're doing these others, or?
Karen,
It could be more cost effective. One of the things that we were originally going to do is the 2 courts at Monroe, and we didn't know that the basketball court was falling into such a state of disrepair. Divot has recommended that we do that court. They have also looked at Log College's court. We're going to try a different court system at Log College. It's a little bit cheaper to see how that works. So we're splitting it. That's going to come in next year's budget, in our regular operating budget.
Okay, I should have known you were on it. So.
We're trying to stay on top of them, but yeah, it should be good.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. Item C, engagement with PFM on financial advisory services. Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're all aware that we recently engaged PFM to handle our pension advisory services. PFM has a number of other services that they do, and it's my recommendation, as well as the finance director, to go ahead and utilize PFM for these services. Both myself and the finance director have used PFM in other roles for this kind of service. What we're looking to do is deal with multiple financial events that we're looking at over the next few years. We all know about Shenandoah Woods, which is going to be the purchase, remediation, and reclamation of that piece of land. We do know that there's going to be substantial work over at Warminster Community Park, and although a lot of it is grant funded, it's going to require us laying out a substantial amount of funds at the beginning of the project and not receiving the grant funds until the end. That presents a possible cash flow issue. We have other things that we're trying to deal with. We have, as you know, a current budget deficit. We had one in 2015, 2016, and now in 2017. Fortunately, we've been managing that by having significant one-time revenues come in from transfer taxes, as well as building permits and other items. But we want PFM to help us take a look at that and map out where we need to be over the next few years with these particular deficits and these revenues to see what is sustainable. We want to make sure that we don't damage ourselves by eating into our fund balance significantly. We also have rising MMO costs, as you're well aware of. We've received the MMO for next year, and there is an approximately $500,000 increase over the current year. So what we're looking for PFM to do is take all these financial events and build a model for us. So we can look out over the next 3 years, 5 years, so on, and say what we can expect and give us options on how to handle it. Now, inevitably, some of those options would require issuance of debt. We all know for Shenandoah Woods, that's probably a high probability. That's another service that PFM does provide. They will help construct an RFP to go out and get this debt, or go in other directions. They have a lot of different avenues that they can go. But PFM is a professional in this area. We have a good deal of experience with them, and I think it's time that we look and create this model going out over the next few years. And that's why I'm asking to approve the engagement letter with them for these services.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the engagement letter with PFM?
Motion?
Ms. Frescatore, second?
Second.
Mr. McPhillips? Any further discussion? I know that was a lot that Greg put out. He and I have discussed it several times. Let me if the board has any further questions.
I think it's a really good idea with everything that financial crisis that we're facing in the future, to be able to find options in solving those problems. And I understand that they're a really great company to perform these tasks, so I'm glad that we're taking the initiative to help us before we face them, right smack in our, in our budget. So I think it's a good idea to do it now. Thank you.
And I agree. I knew when we did this, that when we hired this company, that they had this type of resource to assist us in other areas. So.
I mean, especially when we start talking about police MMOs and all that kind of stuff going up that much, it's financial market-based increase, if I'm correct on that. And when you have that, I think it's worth the investment. So I think it's a very worthy investment.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Comments? Any from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. The next up is item D, appointment of the Municipal Complex Subcommittee. I had a brief discussion with Mr. Schuster today regarding this. I know we had planned on putting 2 citizens on, but we had always left the avenue open to appoint 4 citizens. And I know we have 3 very strong candidates that we'd like to appoint, so we're going to have to amend that resolution. But we can go ahead and make the appointments tonight, correct?
Yeah, I would recommend that in one motion, you increase the membership to a total of 6 members, appoint the members you wish to appoint, and I would come back at the next meeting with the formal resolution to go ahead and do
Yes,
that.
I'd really like to get this off the ground. I really didn't want to wait till the
That
end of
works for you,
October.
right?
So, I mean, if that's suitable, I mean, can we make all the appointments in one motion? I mean, I'd be
Absolutely.
glad to make the motion myself, because I'm really excited about this, so. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to appoint the subcommittee, which will be 2 supervisors that I would like to make a motion to appoint, Brian Monroe and myself. And the 1 member from the municipal authority, which Fred Haas, the municipal authority, has asked for us to appoint Fred Haas. And the 3 citizens are, I don't have the first names, but I have the last, Mr. Amato and Mr. Heideck, and of course, and Wayne McCulloch. And I would like to ask for a second on the motion to appoint this committee.
Second.
Mr. McPhillips, any further discussion from the board?
I just want to thank all the residents that applied for these positions to want to serve their township. They were all very qualified, and we thank them for wanting to serve. And thank you for the ones that will be appointed. But if you're interested in serving the township, there are always positions that are available on the different committees. Please, do an application, because we do appreciate all the time that you do put into these committees.
And we've left room for expansion. I served on the Tricentennial Committee because Karen Whitney's here, as a matter of fact, asked me to sit in for it one meeting. And I noticed that people that came to the committee meeting ended up being on the committee. So, I mean, we leave room open in the future. If there's residents that participate in the meetings that want to join a committee, I'd love to leave room open for that, so.
I'll tell you, I think our experience, Kathy and Dan, on the committees I've served with them on, is whether or not somebody is an official member of the committee, if they come to the meeting, they're a de facto member in terms of the discussion, and they have the ability to influence. So we got quite a few resumes on this, and there's quite a few really, really good people who aren't being appointed today. I would ask that they look, in the next couple of months, we're going to be putting out the vacancies for next year on boards and commissions. Please look at those. And then also, on the back of the agendas, lists all the meetings that are going on in the town. Please come out, and you really can, just by, half the battle showing up.
Right.
So I encourage everybody to stay involved.
And I know that the 2 are newbies on here that are great, that they are, but I do want to compliment Wayne McCulloch. He's my neighbor and a friend, a former supervisor, that every time something like this comes up, he's the first letter in. He really cares about this community, and I think he's a great addition to this. So he's not here tonight, but I hope you're watching, Wayne. It's his birthday too. Happy birthday! So I want to particularly thank
That's the
Wayne
present you gave him?
for stepping up again. He's always there and interested in serving his community. So I just wanted to give him credit for that.
I'm just happy that we're appointing somebody that's seasoned like Wayne McCullough, and that we're adding 2 people that have not served on boards before to give them a chance to be able to serve their township.
Yeah, so,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that.
Okay, so I have the motion. Is there any comments from the public before we take action? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion carries. Looking forward to seeing where that goes. Okay, that's it for the new business. Next up, professional report. Engineers reports first on the agenda tonight. How did that happen?
That's the only thing on the agenda. It's the first,
Okay,
the first.
first in, best dressed. Huh, here you go.
Here, I'm the only report tonight.
You didn't get the memo?
Please, don't write one. Now, just a quick update on the land development projects. We have 2 reviews that were recently completed that are anticipated to be on the Planning Commission meeting, the next one, September 12th. I will warn you that both had some issues that they may want to pull off, regroup at staff level, work through those issues, and then come back. But obviously, it's up to the applicant to decide. I'm not sure if Amanda heard anything yet or not, but I know one has some zoning issues, so they probably will not go too far. So I do not anticipate you seeing them in October unless there's at your October meeting, since you're not having a second meeting in September. So it will be the 1020 Bristol Road office building, and then also Victory Gardens land development in the industrial district. Those 2 reviews were completed. That's the only thing in the pipeline. 2 other things. I know Karen gave an update on your MS4 program. That took up quite a bit of our time. It's a big undertaking. I know there's some different staff, different board members from about 10 years ago when we started, but stormwater, I mean, it's an ongoing issue here. You heard it tonight. There's some huge projects we've crossed off our list over the years, and honestly, I think we're getting to some smaller ones, but they're also important. They're also impacting, houses and property.
I
So
was just at someone's house today that lives up the street from the Whittier Basin and said that has functioned marvelously. That was a huge undertaking.
honestly, that was,
Those
I'm
people used
glad you
to
said that
sandbag their
because,
houses up that
yeah, I'll
they
give
don't
Mr.
anymore.
Kirchner a lot of credit on that one. That was a tough one, and it takes time. I mean, I know people don't want to hear it, but you have to do an investigation. To be honest with you, a couple of these I've heard, over the past few months, it's actually spring-related. It's groundwater. And one thing I just want to mention, remind everybody, if you heard me say erosion control measures tonight, we don't have jurisdiction over erosion control measures when it's approved by the Conservation District. So I know there's an issue out at the Hart School with that base. It's been going on for months. We've had the county go out. They will not make changes. But when residents notify us during construction, mainly that's the big issue of when we get the county involved. I don't have the authority, even as a township engineer, to make a change to erosion control measure approved by DEP in the county.
There's
And
calls
that's a
about
big
that particular one because of the standing water and the
and
mosquitoes.
I'm fully
in the
aware of it,
summertime.
but we can still, doesn't mean that staff can't put pressure and go up the ladder at the county to try to resolve issues. There's others that are simply just groundwater issues that the township, we don't regulate, the state doesn't regulate, and sometimes, that's where you hear where the pipes in the backyards, it's a spring or they're next to a creek. So we've been working a lot on stormwater management program. The other thing is, I believe our traffic engineer Damon is meeting with your Public Works tomorrow with Eric and Pete to go over a Green Light Go grant through PennDOT. We do it every year, so they're narrowing down the scope on that. I got an update that I believe there's a meeting tomorrow on that. So we're working on a traffic grant for you, the scope to be determined. So that's all I have.
And I've said it consistently since I've been involved in the township, that Warminster Township was a successful farming community because it's sitting on a ton of water. I mean, I had huge problems in my own home with groundwater. I always said if it were oil, we'd all be the Clampetts.
Your entire
We'd all
development
be
is
like
built-
Jed Clampett if it were oil.
Your entire development's built in the floodplain.
Right,
All right?
right, my home's built in the
Be very
floodplain.
clear with that. All right? Starting from the high school down to County Line Road, and Upper Moreland deals with a lot. We represent Upper Moreland. But that back in the day, they just built there. There's no regulations of where, and so you have a lot of homes next to creeks like yours and others in your neighborhood, and then upstream from there, that it's very difficult to.
And there weren't stormwater regulations in place, like you said, when these things were built.
No.
We've been trying to deal with it on a case-by-case basis, and I think as a board and the administration, I don't like to pat ourselves on the back, but I think we've come a long way in the past 8
You have, and
eight
that's,
years.
I kind of feel like, I'm not, it's constant staff gets a lot. I mean, I know Mr. Schuster gets a lot of it along with Amanda, but there's a lot of smaller complaints, and Public Work, the nice thing is Public Works address them first. I know they always want the engineer to come out, but that gets expensive, and sometimes it's a maintenance issue. It's simply, hey, you gotta clean out this or that, so.
When we did the 8th and Green project, was this estimated $1 million job that we did in-house for substantially less. I mean, it's not 100% fixed, but it's basically, there's cars not floating through the intersection anymore, so.
And I know Karen's sitting out there, so I will say we're also working on the park projects. Karen has got her hands full, and I don't have an update. She was off for a couple of days here, but that's also on our list and it's been ongoing, working with the Park and Rec staff on that.
Okay. Does anyone have anything for Craig? No? Okay, Mr. Schuster, I know you don't have the manager's report, but you wanted to report on a few things anyway, so.
My formal report's
do.
not ready yet. As soon as I get the department head reports, I'll put them all together and submit my report as well. Just a couple things to note. First of all, congratulate Amanda for being here for 1 year. She had her anniversary yesterday.
All right.
Wow.
Look at jumping into the fire.
Lost $20. And as we celebrate someone who has been here for a while, we're also saying goodbye to someone. I've informed the board that our library director, Peggy Lindner, has submitted her resignation. She is going to be relocating to the West Coast. Fortunately for us, this leaves a little bit of a not a little bit, a 3-month gap that we're going to go ahead and try to find her replacement as quickly as possible, and perhaps even have a little overlap so there can be some adjustments, some training, and some guidance provided. I've already been in contact with the chairman of the library board. I'll be going to their next meeting. The ordinances around this are a little bit different than a typical department head position. I had to work it out a little bit with Mr. Savona. So the library board does have the right to go ahead and be consulted on this. They also have the right to approve the job description. So I'll be working with them in that capacity, and I'll keep you informed throughout the process.
Yes, and I did call, as soon as you called me, I called Peggy to thank her for her service, because she's always been terrific. And when she informed me she was moving to the San Diego area, I said, I'm having a hard time feeling sorry for you. It's sunny and 75 there every day. Yeah, beautiful. So we wish her a lot of luck. Peggy's terrific.
Absolutely, and we'll have an event for her at the
Yes,
appropriate
we'd really like to
time.
recognize her.
Another thing I'd like to mention, everyone watches the emergencies that are going on over in Houston and the islands and soon to be Florida, and it can happen anywhere, whether it be a hurricane or any other kind of natural disaster or even a man-made disaster. So one of the things I always want to urge residents to do, and I put this up on Facebook and email as much as I can, is to make sure you're signed up on your Ready Bucks account. If you don't know what that is, go to the township website or the county website and look for Ready Bucks. It'll ask you a few questions. You get a login, and you can tell when you want to be contacted, your preferences. But that's the way that we communicate with citizens in a crisis. It used to be that we had reverse 911 systems put in place, and that was great 10 years ago. Then everyone got cell phones, and no one was in the phone book anymore, so you couldn't rely on those. So we need people to go ahead and sign up for this Ready Bucks system. It is the way that we will communicate with people in an emergency. So I urge everyone to go ahead and do that. And finally, as I've informed the board, we were very fortunate to win the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. It's a very hard award to get. It's even harder to get on your first time applying, which we were able to do. I'm hopeful at your next meeting I'll have the actual award to present to you, and also make special recognition of the individual on the staff who was most responsible for going after this award and making sure that we did everything possible to achieve it.
Okay. Anyone have anything for Mr. Schuster?
Yeah, speaking of upcoming agenda items, is there an update on utilizing Act 172, offering credit discounts for volunteer firefighters?
Should be in October.
October?
Should see it on our agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because I think you already authorized advertising it. We've been trying to work out the logistics of pairing up the two divergent systems.
Okay.
I think I've got a draft that I think works, but I just want to make sure before I launch the advertising. But my goal was to have it on the agenda so we could adopt it in October, so it would be ready to set up.
Well, there's no case law, so you shouldn't have much trouble.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said there was no case law. Since this law was just
Brand
passed,
new.
there's no court that's ever said, you can't do that.
Right.
Yes.
It's both good and bad.
So So October, okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to give you a heads up on the supervisors meeting. It's listed here as October 5th, but it is the third Thursday of the month.
I was going to
correct?
mention that in my next thing, but yes, it is,
Okay.
it is listed incorrectly on the agenda. It is not October 5th, it is October 19th. Correct.
Thank you. Just reminding you.
Thank you.
Before we move off professionals, does anyone have anything for Mr. Savona? I know you don't have a formal report.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, but just for the public who is not aware, the board tonight approved a $100,000 deposit on the Shenandoah Woods property. As you know, last month you approved agreements that effectively allow the redevelopment authority in the county to take title to that property from the Navy, or to make an offer to take title for the sum of $1 million. The $100,000 deposit, just so the board's aware what the process is going to be going forward, the Navy actually requires that 10% deposit to be transferred to the United States Treasury as a condition to send the formal purchase offer, which has been signed by the redevelopment authority and approved by their board, will be signed by the Navy once they receive the check. The next step in that process is the Navy actually transmits the offer to a congressional oversight committee, one of the defense subcommittees who deals with property disposition. They're required a 30-day period for anybody on the congressional committee to review, comment, ask questions, or potentially call the Navy in for a hearing to ask questions about the transfer. So once the Navy receives that check, it'll be packaged up and transmitted, I'm told, probably by the end of this month. We would expect that would be in front of the Congressional Oversight Committee for the required 30-day period, and hopefully, I think the current trajectory is to try to make it to a closing on the property where the RDA would actually take title before the end of the year. So just so you're aware what the next steps are, that will sort of give you the time frame. From there, obviously, we have some work to do, and there's some collaboration and planning that still has to be done between staff and the RDA, some estimates for demolition and remediation, but in the short term, our immediate goal is to try to have title to that property vested in the redevelopment authority by the end of the year.
Okay. Does anyone have anything, Mr. Savona?
It's great news.
Okay, yeah, that's excellent. Keep that moving along. Okay, next up is Township Manager's announcements of upcoming agenda items. Back to you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, October 19th, not October 5th. We will finally have the Archbishop Wood Boys Basketball, Championship Boys Basketball team in to receive recognition from last year. We will possibly have the revised solicitation ordinance before you. The MAR 2 project at York and Bristol for preliminary final, and also, as Mr. Kenner mentioned, Victory Gardens is in the pipeline as well. So that's all I have on the agenda right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schuster. Next up is item 10, second round of public comment. Larry, come on up.
Yeah, I can't resist this.
Oh,
I've been,
Larry, we missed you terribly.
yeah, my duties in taking care of my wife have escalated due to another head injury that she's received in the fall. And I should have looked this up, but are there any riparian buffer regulations in place in the township?
I think there are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have one behind my house.
I'm sorry.
Riparian buffer
Regulations.
regulations within the
Yes,
township.
yeah, actually independent. They were
Heck,
done.
you need to get a zoning permit to infringe on it.
Yeah, it's all in, well, it's a I thought it was a, there's certain buffer requirements. You're talking about official riparian buffer. No, it was a standalone.
On streams.
It was in zoning, and then I believe the former solicitor, we pulled that out, and it was a freestanding ordinance. I have to look into that. I was not involved. I didn't handle any of
But
that.
there is some
they do
legislation on the
exist.
books here.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, there is. I just don't know if it's in zoning anymore or not, but.
And the reason I mention that is I volunteered to take a look at the buffers along some of the creeks and found a lot of issues, more so than I can go over with an earth scan map or something like that. I'll actually have to physically go out there. And I've got a couple places to start for the EAC.
You can start at my house, Larry. We'll have a beverage. Stop by.
Okay.
You know,
You got to go by your house?
Larry, I will tell you, the riparian only is in zoning. I was thinking of the floodplain regulations, we pulled out riparian, but I believe, pretty sure we left the riparian zone 1, zone 2. in zoning, so any land development comes through has to comply with that under the zoning ordinance.
And do you know what the minimum requirement is? The absolute minimum?
For setback?
50 feet.
Yeah.
From the stream?
The first is, top of bank is 50 feet, and then I think it's another, I don't know this zone two, I think it's 50 or another 100.
Okay, I'll check with
So,
you
that's-
and report to them, the EAC at the next meeting.
Okay.
The other thing I was thinking of is, I was talking to the county emergency manager yesterday regarding what would happen if we had a very large downpour like they've had in Houston. You know, I did do a little research and found that there was a time when we had a 30.2-inch rainfall in less than 20 hours here, and wondered what kind of measures he would have for that. He was very surprised to find that there was that in the history.
When was that, Larry? Do you know?
Well, I don't have my figures in front of me, but it was back a ways.
Okay.
But it has happened, and I know it happens. I was thinking of, do I need flood insurance? But I
Yes, I remember we had a 15-inch within a very short period of time, within the last, like, 12 years.
The reason for that is that when these things happen in a region, usually the municipalities are on their own for a while. And one of the recommendations that have been made in some of the others that I've been keeping track of is they have a list of people with high water vehicles that could be called upon to be ready in case of that, a staging area for them, and other things like that. You know, and a place for housing people that are immediately dropped out. The bottom line is that I just would like us to be ahead of the curve on this, not just because of the change in the weather that we've had, but because it can happen. And my background in disaster planning with the Philadelphia Civil Defense Rescue Services says that if you plan for it, you're probably in better shape than if you don't plan for it. The only time you can't plan for a disaster is when you're having a disaster.
Right.
So I thought I'd mention that.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to supervisor's comment. Ms. Frescatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to express to my residents that I really would like to see some of you participate in the Comprehensive Plan Board meeting that we'll be having Tuesday, September 26th at 7 p.m. at the Ben Wilson Senior Center. Be a part of the future of your community. Also, I just want to say I have my thoughts and prayers are with the folks that are in Houston and the ones in Florida that are facing the water disaster right now. So let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to express my disappointment that Director Tim Hagee didn't make it here tonight. You know, especially with the water issue, communication, and I think all of us can agree that communication is absolutely essential. You know, but not just between intergovernmental agencies, but to the community. Every single one of us up here on this board talks to members of the community. I mean, it's part of our job. We do it on a daily basis sometimes. And I mean, speaking for myself, I can say that the number one question that I get, even though the Water Authority is not under our jurisdiction outside of board appointments, is the water issue. Hands down, that's the number one issue that I get. So I look forward to seeing Mr. Hagee here in the near future. So outside of that, again, I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Schuster with you and your team with respect to the Distinguished Budget Award. Out of well over 1,000 communities you beat out for that, correct?
Unfortunately, not unfortunately, the answer is no. That was, I saw the newspaper article, which I think you're referring to.
That's exactly what I'm referring to.
That's an error in the article. We did not win over
Oh,
1,600.
I
I know.
Fake news is
I
the
know.
thing today. You don't let all fake news
I'm not sure if they meant to say 1,600 apply or receive. I don't know where they got that number, but this is not
Come on.
this is. I have to be honest. This is not an award where we beat out other municipalities. You know, it's an award that certain municipalities do win when they've reached a certain level and then they've done everything that they're supposed to do. Don't get me wrong. Very few municipalities win this award. So this is not something that everybody has.
As far as I'm concerned, I read it in the newspaper, and you beat out over 1,600. So that's exactly right. And
sticking to it.
so, yeah, exactly. Congratulate Ever since you guys have come on board, I mean, you make us look good, so you've been doing a phenomenal job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McPhillips?
Wow, after that, no comment.
All right. Mr. Crowley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, just like to wish all the kids going back to school, those who are excited and those who are dreading it, a good school year. You know, our DA, Matt Weintraub, put out a robocall the other night about bus safety. I can't tell you how many times I've driven down Street Road and seen some jerk blow past the bus with the lights on and the stop sign. It doesn't matter what town it's in. I see it all over the place. So please, everybody be mindful of the children who are out there in the buses. We want it to be a safe school year. Our cops and our crossing guards do the best job they can, but everybody's got to cooperate with them. It's my understanding that the township manager, while doing a terrific job, is also a New England Patriots fan.
Uh-huh.
And the game is, what time does the game start? 8:30.
32 minutes.
So I think we should go into executive session after this meeting to discuss our long-range plan on the
Detailed
library.
budget presentation.
Yes. Speaking of the library, just really quickly, I just want to tip my hat to Peggy Lindner. When I first got involved in the township, the first department I really interacted with a lot was Peggy. A professional always, a very kind and terrific woman. I wish her the best on her relocation and thank her for all the service to the township. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and did I see somewhere where Marie started kindergarten today?
She did. She's one of those who,
I wish them a lot of luck. Now we love her.
the teachers will need it. So,
Good congratulations, Marie, if you're watching. Good luck.
and now that you said that, good job, Jacob, on fourth grade, because the moment you mention one, you don't mention the other, I'm in trouble. So,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crowley. I just want to reiterate Ms. Frescator's comments about the people in Houston, Texas, and if you, I know money's always tight, if you can make a donation to the Red Cross or some other organization, even for $10, they have that thing where you can text $10. It's really horrific, and it could happen to us any day. I mean, I was on vacation last week and glued to the TV watching it all week of how horrific it is and how truly lucky we are that we don't live in that type of area that it happens regularly to, but it could happen to us too, as Larry would say. So please keep those people in your thoughts and your prayers, and if you can make a donation, please do. And that is all that I have tonight, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. McPhillips, meeting adjourned.
You.